Yes, so this afternoon we are going to look at project planning, and this session we should be able to define what project planning is, and then we should be able to explain the, the purpose of project planning, and then the steps of project planning and the tools that we can use in project planning. So project planning basically is the second phase of the project management cycle, or the project cycle. It is very important that it is done in a proper way because it lays the foundation for the subsequent phases of the project cycle. That is especially the execution phase, which is basically the implementation phase of the project cycle. So in project planning, we basically decide or we plan to how to allocate resources. We design plans on how to mitigate risks, and then also have a clear strategy or plan on how we can engage with the stakeholders. So project management is basically looking at the intervention in a holistic way, and then you start to organize the activities that will be undertaken to achieve the project strategic objectives and the desired goals. So that means that you're looking at how the activities will be implemented. So you're aligning the objectives of the project with the operations, okay? And then also you look ahead to see what are the likely scenarios that can happen and how you can react to them, okay? And you also define the goals and determine the mission and the resources that you will use to be able to achieve the project targets. So that means your role as a project manager, you should be able to develop multiple plans to meet these objectives. So, for example, you will have a communication plan, you will have a stakeholder engagement plan, you will have a risk analysis or risk management plan, you'll have a marketing plan, okay? So there are many plans that you will actually have, but in general, you're looking at how you want to reach where you want. What resources do you need to reach where you want to reach? And then if there are any things that may happen in the future, you put plans in place to manage them. So that means project planning is actually very important because it helps you to align the project objectives with the mission, the vision, and the activities. That means that starting from the daily activities that you're undertaking within a project, they contribute to the achievement of the objectives, and then they contribute to the achievement of the vision and the mission, and then the overall strategy of the project. Okay, so that means that you're looking at how you manage resources. So you plan how to manage resources. They can be financial resources, they can be human resources. Okay, how you manage them, and then you look at the risks that can happen and what strategies are you going to put across to minimize these risks. And then, of course, stakeholder engagement, so that you can meet their expectations and gain their support. So, like I said, you will have a number of plans in place for a given project. Okay, if it is a health project, you can have what you call a strategic plan, an operational plan, a tactical plan, a number of plans, depending on the context of the health project. So these plans can be categorized in different ways based maybe on the duration, on the nature of the operations, on the flexibility. Okay, so you can have fixed plans. These are plans that you don't really want to change. They are fixed, they are rigid. And then you have those that are actually that are non-fixed, okay? Or we can call them rolling plans. They are flexible. You can always change them as you want, okay? And then you can have what you call long-term plans, which are often termed as strategic plans. This one can last for a period of 3 to 10 years, okay? Or sometimes can have strategic plans that run for 3 years, okay? And plans that are between 1 to 2 years, those one can be termed as short-term plans. Okay, so you have seen that we have introduced the word strategic, which is usually a long-term planning for the organization or for the project, and then tactical plans are related to the dynamics of running the activities. What happens if this happens? That is the tactical plan. And then the operational plan basically is about how things will be running. Okay, if it is about delivering a particular product, how will the product move from one location to the other? That is what we call an operational plan. So often strategic plans are more comprehensive. They look at the organization and the environment in which the organization is operating in. Whereas the operational plan is basically looking at how activities are being carried out. So it is a functional or departmental level focused. Okay, whereas the strategic plan is usually made by the top management for the project. Okay, so it is very important that you have a strategic plan in place, because it is the one which actually propels the organization or the project to another higher level. It allows for allocation of resources to pursue the vision and mission of the organization in the long term. Okay, so it creates a situation where you have to understand the current situation of the organization and what needs to be done to move the organization from one step to the other. Okay, so the strategic plan has to be in alignment with the vision and mission statements for the organization. So you use a number of tools to achieve strategic management. First of all, you need to understand what the organization is doing and how will it contribute to its mission and vision. Okay, so that means that you need to first analyze the organization in terms of its strength, in terms of its weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But also you can use other techniques to be able to map out all this. Basically, you need to use tools that will help you to visualize the current situation of the organization, and then to see where you want to move the organization to. So you can use the SWOT analysis, you can use the situation target proposal, or you can use the draw, see, think, and then plan. Okay, this involves the mapping, of the project or the organization is dealing with a particular problem. So you can use mind mapping to be able to see what are the other problems that are, or concepts related to the problem that you're solving. So you basically draw and then start to visualize this, and and then you brainstorm as you think, and then start to lay down the plans on how you can navigate through. Okay, so strategic planning is broad. We can call it comprehensive or basically corporate health planning. You look at a broader perspective. It's not about the lower level planning where they have the lower managers looking at the implementation of the key activities. So for it, instead, it takes a broader view over an extended period of time, which usually can be 5 to 10 years or 3 to 5 years, depending. But it can be actually more than that. You can have a strategic plan that is covering the whole country. For example, if you have an NGO present in the country, it can have what we call a strategic plan for the whole country, and say that in the next 5 years, our role is going to be ABCD in South Sudan. So strategic plans are actually wider in scope. So you can also have the Ministry of Health having, let us say, family planning strategic plan 2023, 2025, or 2023, 2020, 2030. It's a 7-year plan, or 2023, 2028. That's about a 5-year plan. Okay, so that means that strategy is basically for family planning in the whole of South Sudan. So you basically set out the things that you want to achieve in a strategic plan. What do you want to achieve? That means that you need to make a decision on what are the things that you have to give priority to. And then you start now formulating the strategic plans. Okay, you basically forecasting. You're looking at what you want to get in future. Okay, and then you use techniques of basically anticipating what we have now and what are we likely to have in the future. So you anticipate how the future environment will be. Okay, so you can have strategic plans for health facilities. You can have strategic plans for national NGOs, international NGOs, the ministry at the state level, or even the county health departments. All these facilities, all these entities have what we call strategic plans. It is always very important, and this is what is actually being encouraged, that the plans are built from bottom up. They originate from the lower levels of authority moving upwards, rather than the planning being imposed on people from the top management, which is called top-bottom planning. So if you want your strategic plan to be very effective, make sure that the top management has approved, or you have the support of the top management, or the top management itself has to be has agreed to move in that direction, so that we don't have a lot of conflicts, and then you get difficulties in allocation of resources, and also making a lot of mistakes and blaming the mistakes on others. So it is very important that you have you have support at the top level, or the top level is actually has consensus on the direction of the project. Okay, so corporate self-appraisal is very important, such that they the top management can be able to review and reflect on where the strategic plan will lead the organization or the project to, and then be able to learn from the mistakes and not allow them to continuously happen and cause losses. Okay, forecasting is another key thing that one needs in strategic health plans. That means you need to look at what is most likely going to happen in the near future. and then establish plans that can be able to operate in that future that you're foreseeing. Participation of key stakeholders, including the lower level management, is very important. Have alternative plans, what we call contingency strategies. This is to say that if plan A doesn't work, you have plan B. It's always very important to have contingency operational plans in case of crisis. Okay, the tactical plans already said that the tactical and operational plans are usually very similar, but basically they are about how the actual activities will be undertaken. This is basically the execution. If you don't have the right tactics, even if you have the very good strategic plan, it may actually fail. Okay, so how do you go about organizing the activities, the tasks, the tasks available, the resources that you have, such that you can deliver the product or the service in an appropriate way? Okay, so with tactical plans, you basically make sure that you have broken down the tasks into smaller components, and then lay down the procedures on how these tasks will be accomplished, or they will be performed. Okay, so operational planning can occur at different levels. At the level of the delivery of the service, or at the upper level, let us say the regional offices. Okay, so it is very important to have these plans in place, because that is when now you can actually be able to run the activities of the project. Okay, so project planning happens following a series of steps or stages, and the first one is organizing for planning. That means that you need to put down a team that will actually do the planning for the project. Okay, understand what the situation is. That means you need to do a situation analysis. This involves you understanding the dynamics or the context, the key players, the contributing factors, the barriers, motivations, and things like that about any given health problem. So you analyze the situation, understand the burden, the root causes, the what the key stakeholders are saying is very important. Usually, you'll understand that in a given community you have a lot of problems. Then you need to now move. The third step is prioritizing the, the health problems, and know which health problem you're going to address given the limited resources that you have. After deciding on the problem that you want to address, then you set the objectives, and then you roll out the key interventions to address the problem based on the objectives that we have set forward. Okay, so after understanding that this is the problem, let us say maybe the problem is high prevalence of malaria. How can you address the problem? Maybe by health education, or distributing free mosquito nets, or educating people via the radio, television, and all those. So that means that you also, after choosing the problem, you also have a lot of strategies that you need to choose from to be able to address the problem. So you need to analyze the strategies that you have. What are the things that can make the strategy successful or not? What are the constraints? What are the problems? Okay, and then now you can determine the strategy that you're going to use, which is basically select the strategy based on all the factors that you have looked at, the environmental, the financial, the technical, all those feasibilities, the requirements, the costs, and then be able to decide. And then after that, you now have a full plan of what you're going to do and the resources that you're going to to need to be able to implement the key activities. Now, this is the key step of breaking down the key activities and who is responsible and when. So that is the detailed plan, which basically answers the question of what will be done, who will do it, and when will it be done. So that means that you need to be familiar with the project management tools of scheduling. That means you need to know what activities are supposed to be done and when. Okay, so you have a full project plan that you need to have at the moment, at the last stage of the project planning phase. Sometimes people make plans that will not actually work or that people will not stick to, and we can call these plans failing plans. That means that the key stakeholders are not committed to implementing the plan, or that the plan is not very clear, it cannot be easily implemented, it's not creating meaningful impact, and the objectives are not very smart. So you have a lot of problems. Okay. The other problem is that there is a lack of hierarchical approach to developing the plans. This is when we talked about the bottom up. Okay, if the plan does not have the support from bottom, or does not originate from bottom, and that means the lower levels of the project or the community members, then you have a lot of problems advancing that plan. So it is not very good to impose plans on communities or beneficiaries. Okay, so understand the whole environment very well. So this is the concept to do with environmental scanning, which is that understand the factors or the context within which you're going to implement the project. So you do the SWOT analysis that we talked about, which looks at the internal and the external factors that may influence the success of a project. Okay. Don't over-rely on past experiences. This is not to say that don't always look back. You can always learn from the past projects, okay, what we call learned lessons. But if you over-rely on that, it may make you to forget that changes may happen in the future. So it means that you have to strike a very good balance. And sometimes if you make wholesome changes in a plan or in a project, it may be very difficult for you to navigate the resistance to change. People may not want to change the way they do things. So the project charter basically is a document that allows or authorizes the project's existence and provides high-level details. It serves as the reference point for project decisions and defines the purpose, scope, and the key stakeholders. So basically, you come up with what you call the project charter, which is a document that basically is like an authorization to start a project. It has everything about the project in terms of the objectives, purpose, scope, and the key stakeholders. So it is a comprehensive document which includes the project description, what the project is all about, why is it very important, what do you want to achieve, and then what areas are you going to cover, what are the boundaries of the project, and what are you going to deliver. Are they products or services? And what products are they? Those are the deliverables. Who is going to be involved or who is going to be consulted, and what are their key roles? Understand that there will be constraints, the things that will limit the progress of the project, and what are the assumptions that you're going to make about the project. So for you to write a very good project plan, you need to start by, but this may not actually be static in terms of moving from one step to the other. But usually, it is very important for you to start with the project objectives. What do you want to achieve? The objective should meet the SMART criteria. What do you want to have at the end of the project? What are the outputs, which are basically the deliverables? And I'll break down the tasks that will have to be accomplished for you to reach or to get what you call the deliverables. So that means that you need to develop what we call a work breakdown structure. And then now determine the interdependencies, which is to say that activities at one stage will affect the activities at the other stage. So understand which activities will depend on the other. This is very important. And then estimate the resources needed in terms of financial resources, personnel, and also time. And then create a schedule, which we call a timeline for the project. You don't want to be on at the same level throughout. You need to know your progress in terms of what have you achieved and when. So you need to create a schedule, identify the risks, and be able to mitigate or put down strategies to mitigate them. Have a clear communication plan, and then obviously have a strategy of monitoring and controlling. That means that you need to be able to know whether you are on track or not, and what changes you can make sure that you are on the right track in the implementation. So definitely, if you looked at what we have just described, each part, each of those actually have to be in the project plan. The project description, the introduction, the scopes, schedule, resources, and the risk management strategies of plan communication, and then monitoring. Come, you have entered with your. So in your plan, you need to know who is going to do what in the project. So that means that you need to know who is going to do what, and that will mean that you know who is going to report to who. Okay, this is very important. So you need to have clarity on the different members of the project. Who is the project manager, the project or the assistant project manager? What will their roles be? Who are the project sponsors? These are very key, such that you don't get what you call lack of clarity on roles and responsibilities. This can be a situation that can cause conflicts within a project. So you need to know who are the key people required for this project, and then you clearly state their roles. The project sponsor is usually the one who pushes to make sure that the project happens and that the project is implemented in line with the organizational goals. Then the project manager is the one who is now concerned with making sure that all project activities through planning, execution, monitoring, and closing are actually implemented. And then the team members are the ones now involved in carrying out these tasks. And then the stakeholders are any individuals who have interest in the project. They can be government officials, beneficiaries, the staff, and other NGOs within the same field. They can be having interest. So we look at the particular aspects of planning. Human resource, this is to say that you need to know who needs to work within the project. So you look for people with the right talent, qualification, and experiences to be able to do the work. So that means that you need to know uh, the project activities that need to be carried out and what expertise is actually required. And then you need to determine how much you need to pay for the personnel that you have employed. So that means you need to have enough resources for payment. And the payment may influence the nature of staff that you have, that you attract for the project. If you're paying little money, then members, experienced or talented personnel will not come. Be very easy for you to attract them to the project. Okay, so when you recruit them, you need to assign them proper roles and responsibilities. Uh, if the project is unique, it may mean that it may be very difficult for you to get people with the required skill set. So you may need to train them to enhance their abilities to implement the project. And then over time, you need to, after recruitment, you need to uh, evaluate the staff performance such that you can reward those who are contributing positively and also point out areas of improvement for staff that are not performing very well. And then the other aspect is the logistics planning, which is basically to make sure that the physical resources are available at the right time, in the right place. So that means that you need to look at issues of procurement, that is buying, and then transporting, and then proper documentation and communication about what you have and how to maintain what you have bought, the logistics. Yeah, that is very, very vital. Buying is very important because you make sure that you manage the costs. You don't want to buy things at an inflated cost. That means that you're going to make the project costly, and then that will cause ineffectiveness, okay, and inefficiencies will happen. So that means that you need to have strategies on how to select. Then, first of all, you need to have a tender, okay, published. I don't know who is this. William, please. You have joined us late and you are disrupting our recordings. Okay, make sure that you distribute you craft a tender document that you can distribute through different channels for people to be able to see that you need services. And then they will apply, they will forward their bids for consideration, and then now you need to evaluate. Okay, that is now selecting, vendor selection. After that, after you have approved one of the vendors, now you go into a contract. Now you need to have the skills of contract management and also making sure that the vendor meets the requirements that are set within the contract. Okay. Transportation, if the equipment need to be moved from one place to the other, you need to look at the available methods of transport. The key considerations that you need to make are about the cost, efficiency, and the issues related to environmental impact during transportation. The other thing that you need to know about planning is having a communication plan, how information will be shared, and during what time, or the schedules of sharing this information. This information relates to project reports, meetings, and also any collaboration tools that you may have. Need to think about that. Collaboration tools are tools that allow you to work on the same task at the same time or asynchronously. For example, if there's a document that you want to work on, but you don't want to work on it alone, you want people to contribute to the same document. Then the tool that allows you to do that is what we call a collaboration tool. So if you have a document, you say you write the introduction, you write the budget, but all that is being done on the same document. So collaboration tools allow you to do that. So tools like Google Meet can allow you to do collaboration. Tools like Google Drive can allow you to do collaboration on Google Documents, on Google Slides, and then also on Excel. Okay, so you can think about the collaboration tools that you want. Quality control is very important. Make sure that the product or the deliverables for the project meet the required standards. So that means that you need to put in place a plan for quality management. They can include inspections, measurements, testing to make sure that the quality standards are actually met. In planning, you need to think about the changes that may happen and how you will manage the change. So change management is very key. Change management can easily happen if you have a very good plan in place, and being open about changes and communicating in a timely manner to stakeholders can minimize resistance in change management. Stakeholder involvement and engagement is very key because you will be able to win their support, and often these stakeholders are people who are actually going to fund the project. So have a plan in place to be able to communicate to the key stakeholders, whether it is the ministries, whether it is other organizations or the beneficiaries. They need to have information on how the project is progressing. So you need to think about this during the planning phase. If people resist the project, you need to think about the strategies to address this. Communication is key, but another important aspect is training and supporting, such that the stakeholders can understand and be able to adopt to any changes that can happen through or by the project. Information system planning. How is the information going to be collected? Information is very important to make decisions in a project. You can use this information to be able to scale up projects, to be able to learn about the implementation of the whole project. So you need to have a very good systems. This can include computers, softwares, and other tools to be able to manage data very well. Data is very, very vital to win the support and the trust of the key stakeholders, especially the donors. So now, what tools do you need? Like I said, you need computer systems. You need computers. You need software programs. You need to have data security platforms or tools to be able to manage data very well across all the platforms, the communication platforms, across the collaboration platforms. These are very, very important. Risk assessment and mitigation is something that I've continuously talked about. Basically, during the planning phase, you need to know how to do budgeting, scheduling, and then be able to split down the task into smaller tasks. Okay, so we shall have sessions that will look at budgeting, project budgeting, and see the different types of budgeting. What tools can you use for budgeting? But basically, budgeting is concerned with making sure that we make estimates for the project components, issues to do with the materials, labor, overhead costs. How do you make sure that you don't overspend or underspend? How do you make sure that your budget, the implementation of the activities is within the budget that has been approved? How do you make sure that key milestones are achieved on time? What tools can you use to do that? So what are the scheduling tools available that you need to have? And then the work breakdown structure, which is basically one that allows you to break project tasks into subtasks, such that you understand the work that is, you can be able to visualize the key activities within a given project. So that marks the end of this presentation. If you have any questions,